I froze in the doorway. There he was. Dylan sprawled across my bed, wearing my shirt like it had always belonged to him. My favorite gray t-shirt, the one soft from years of wear, the one I almost never let anyone touch. And he wasn't just wearing it. He was asleep in it. The hem was bunched up around his waist, exposing a strip of pale skin, the kind that caught the glow of the bedside lamp I'd forgotten to switch off. For a second, I couldn't breathe. The room felt too warm, too quiet, except for the slow rise and fall of his chest. My shirt clung to him differently, the fabric stretched across his shoulders, hanging loose at the collar, dipping low enough that his collarbone caught the light. My scent had to be all over it, and now, his scent was mixing into mine. I hated the way my pulse stuttered. I stepped inside, careful but loud enough to wake him. "Dylan." My voice cracked too sharp. His lashes fluttered. He blinked once, then smiled the kind of smile that could break walls without trying. "Min, you're home." His voice was thick, heavy with sleep. I crossed my arms, trying to shield myself with annoyance. "You're wearing my shirt." He stretched lazily, the fabric tugging across his chest. His eyes found mine in the dim light. "Yeah, it smelled like you." His grin tilted. I liked it. Made it easier to sleep. The words landed heavy, unexpected. My chest tightened, a strange mix of irritation and something else I refused to name. "That doesn't mean you can just—" I stopped, shaking my head. "Seriously, Dylan. You don't just take someone's clothes without asking." He sat up slowly, dragging a hand through his messy black hair. Sleepy strands stuck out in every direction, but he somehow made it look deliberate. "Relax. I'll wash it before I give it back." "That's not the point." His smirk softened, his gaze steady on me. "Then what is?" I opened my mouth, closed it, because what was the point? That I hated the idea of his skin against my shirt. That it burned into me, how natural he looked in something that was mine. That I couldn't stop staring at the way it slid off his shoulder. My silence must have said too much. Dylan tilted his head, lips curving. "You're jealous of your own shirt." "Don't be ridiculous," I muttered, turning away. My throat felt tight. "I'm not jealous. I just have boundaries." "Boundaries," he repeated as if tasting the word. He leaned back on his palms, shirt falling even lower on one side. "That's funny. You've lived with me for months now, and this is where you draw the line?" I swallowed hard. "I don't care if you raid my food or take my spot on the couch or blast music at 2 a.m. "You definitely care about that," he cut in. "Fine. I care. But this is different. My clothes are personal." His smile flickered, softening in a way that left me unsteady. "I know. That's why I wore it." The room went still. His voice wasn't mocking anymore. It was low, almost careful, as if he'd just confessed something without meaning to. My heart lurched. I looked away, needing space, but the air between us felt charged, humming with something I couldn't name. Just, "Don't do it again." He didn't answer right away. Instead, he stood, the movement unhurried, deliberate. The shirt hung loose on his frame, brushing against his thighs. He stepped closer until I could feel the heat of him, the faint musk of his body mixing with the cotton scent of my shirt. I forced myself not to move, not to flinch, but I knew he noticed the way my breathing changed. "You're right," he said finally, his voice a whisper that brushed over my skin. "Boundaries." He gave a crooked smile. "I'll try to remember." But the way he said it, I knew he wouldn't. "Not really." He brushed past me, bare feet silent on the hardwood, and disappeared into the hallway, leaving my shirt clinging to his frame as if it belonged there. I stood frozen in place, fists clenched, heart pounding against my ribs. The echo of his words stayed with me long after he was gone. It wasn't about the shirt. It was about the fact that I wanted to rip it off him. Not because I was angry, but because the sight of him in something so close to me felt too intimate, too dangerous. And the worst part, I wasn't sure I wanted it to stop. I woke up the next morning, still replaying last night in my head. The sight of Dylan in my shirt, the lazy smirk, the way he'd leaned in so close before walking away. I told myself it was nothing, just his usual reckless boundary pushing, but my chest tightened every time the image flashed back. The smell of coffee pulled me out of my head. I stepped into the kitchen, rubbing my eyes, and there he was again, standing by the counter pouring himself a mug, like he owned the place. And yes, still in my shirt. You've got to be kidding me, I muttered, dropping onto a stool. He glanced over, completely unbothered. Hair a mess but somehow perfect. Morning to you too. You're still wearing it. I pointed accusingly at the shirt. He raised a brow, lifting the mug to his lips. Of course, you didn't actually think I'd give it back after one night, did you? I gaped at him. It's mine. He shrugged. It looks better on me. My jaw tightened. But before I could fire back, he added smoothly, and besides, you like seeing me in it. The heat that rushed to my face betrayed me. I turned toward the fridge, trying to hide it. In your dreams. He laughed, low and easy, the kind of sound that wrapped around me like smoke. Maybe, or maybe in yours. I grabbed a bottle of water and forced my tone flat. You're impossible. And you're fun to mess with. His grin widened. That's balance. I rolled my eyes, but my pulse still hadn't slowed. It was too easy for him the way he slipped under my skin like this. Later that day, I tried to shake it off at campus. I threw myself into classes, scribbling notes, forcing myself to focus. But Dylan was everywhere, walking beside me with his easy swagger, cracking jokes that made people light up, charming everyone with no effort. At lunch I sat across from him, trying not to notice that my shirt clung to him like a second skin now. He was telling some story to the group, his hands moving animatedly, when a girl slid into the seat beside him. Long hair, soft laugh. She leaned in too close, brushing her hand against his arm like it was the most natural thing in the world. My chest tightened. I stabbed at my food harder than necessary. It was none of my business. He could laugh with whoever he wanted. He wasn't mine. But the way she touched him, it set fire to something inside me. I didn't want to name. You okay? One of my classmates asked. Fine, I said too quickly, forcing a smile. But when I glanced back, Dylan's gaze caught mine. For just a second his grin faltered. His eyes lingered on me with a flicker of something unreadable, sharp, possessive almost. Before he turned back to the girl, his smile snapping back into place. The rest of lunch was a blur. I left early, telling myself I needed fresh air. But really, I just couldn't stand watching. That evening, back at the apartment, I tried to avoid him. I buried myself in homework on the couch, headphones in, pretending to be too busy to talk. But of course, Dylan wasn't one to let things slide. He plopped down beside me, stretching out until his leg brushed mine. You've been quiet. I'm studying. You're sulking. I pulled off my headphones. I'm not. He leaned in, smirking. You are. Was it the shirt again? Or, his voice dropped, teasing. Was it lunch? My chest squeezed. What are you talking about? His smile deepened, but his eyes were sharp. You looked like you wanted to murder someone. I swallowed hard. You're imagining things. Am I? He tilted his head, watching me too closely. Then softer. You don't like it when other people touch me, do you? The words stole my breath. I couldn't answer. I didn't know how. He leaned back, satisfied with my silence. Thoughts, frustration surged, tangled with heat I couldn't contain. You're so full of yourself. And you're terrible at hiding what you feel. His voice was playful, but there was an edge to it. He wasn't just teasing anymore. He was testing me, pushing me to admit something I wasn't ready to. I grabbed my laptop, ready to escape, but his hand shot out, warm around my wrist. My pulse jumped instantly. Hey. His voice softened. I'm not trying to mess with you. Not really. He stopped, searching my face, then let out a small laugh. Never mind. I pulled my hand free, but the warmth of his touch stayed long after. That night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling, my heart still pounding. He knew I was jealous, and the worst part was, he didn't seem scared of it. He seemed amused, almost like he wanted it. The silence between us the next morning was heavy. Dylan had gone out early, and for once I felt relieved not to face him. But relief only lasted until I walked into our shared apartment that evening and found the living room a mess. His sneakers tossed in the middle of the floor, empty soda cans on the coffee table, my textbooks shoved to the side like they didn't matter. I clenched my jaw. It wasn't new. Dylan lived like chaos followed him around, and I usually picked up after him without much complaint. But after everything, after the shirt, The banter, the jealousy he had so effortlessly pulled out of me, something inside me snapped. When he finally strolled in, gym bag slung over his shoulder, hair damp from a shower, I didn't even let him sit down. "You need to start respecting this space," I said sharply. He raised a brow. "Good evening to you too." "I'm serious, Dylan. You leave your stuff everywhere. Like none of it matters. Like I'm just here to clean up after you." He dropped the bag with a thud and leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, expression unreadable. "I didn't realize you were keeping score." "It's not about keeping score. It's about basic respect." "Respect," he echoed, voice cool. Funny coming from someone who pretends nothing ever gets to him. Who walks around acting like he's above it all. The words hit like a slap. What the hell is that supposed to mean? He pushed off the frame, stepping closer, eyes flashing. "It means you act like you don't care. But you do. About the shirt, about that girl at lunch, about me. You pretend you're untouchable, but I see right through it." My chest tightened. He wasn't wrong, and that made it worse. "Don't twist this into something else. We're talking about respect. Not what?" His voice rose, sharp and cutting. "Not the fact that you look at me like you hate me one second and like you want to kiss me the next." My stomach dropped. Blood rushed to my ears. He had said it out loud. I forced a laugh, bitter and shaky. "You're insane." "No," he snapped, stepping even closer. His eyes burned into mine. "You're just a coward." That word. It cut deeper than I expected. I clenched my fists, heat flooding my face. "At least I don't treat everything like a joke. At least I know when to stop. You push and push, because you think everyone will let you get away with it, but newsflash, Dylan, not everyone wants to be part of your little game." The hurt flickered across his face before he masked it with a smirk. But I saw it. I felt it. He laughed, low and cold. "Right. A game. That's all I am to you?" I swallowed hard, throat tight, but the words had already left me. "You said it yourself. You like messing with me. Well, congratulations. You got what you wanted." For a moment neither of us moved. The tension stretched so thin I thought it would shatter. His jaw clenched, his eyes darker than I'd ever seen. And then, without another word, he turned on his heel and slammed the bedroom door behind him. The sound echoed through the apartment, leaving me alone with the wreckage of what I'd just done. I sank onto the couch, running both hands through my hair. My chest ached, a physical pain, because the truth was, I hadn't lied. He did mess with me. He did push me past my limits. But I had lied about one thing. It wasn't a game. Not for me, and maybe not for him either. Hours passed in silence. I thought about knocking on his door, apologizing, saying anything to fix the words I'd thrown at him. But pride kept me still. And fear that if I opened my mouth again, the truth would spill out, and I wasn't ready for that. When I finally crawled into bed, the apartment felt colder than ever. I turned toward the wall, clutching my pillow, and whispered into the dark what I couldn't say to him. "I don't hate you, Dylan. I never did." The words hung heavy in the air, swallowed by silence. Somewhere across the thin wall, I wondered if he was awake too, staring at the ceiling like me, wondering if we had just broken something neither of us knew how to fix. And the worst part? I wasn't sure either of us wanted to fix it. The apartment had been unnervingly quiet since our fight. Dylan barely came out of his room. And when he did, he avoided me. No smirks, no teasing remarks, none of the easy laughter that usually filled the space. Just silence. 3 days of silence. It should have been a relief. After all, wasn't this what I wanted? Space? Boundaries? A chance to breathe without his presence pressing in from every angle? But it wasn't. The quiet hurt worse than the fight. Worse than his sharp words echoing in my chest. Coward. Every corner of the apartment reminded me of him. The mug he left in the sink, the jacket tossed over the couch, the faint trace of his cologne lingering in the hallway. I told myself to let it go, to wait until it all blew over. But then, that night, the storm came. Rain pounded against the windows. Wind howling like it wanted to rip the building apart. I sat on the couch with my laptop, trying to focus when suddenly the lights flickered. Once, twice, then total darkness. The hum of the fridge cut out, the glow of the lamp vanished. Silence rushed in, broken only by the roar of the storm outside. "Dylan?" I called. My voice sharper than I intended. A door creaked open down the hall. His voice floated out, cautious. Power's out? No kidding. I muttered, but the sound of his footsteps drawing closer eased something in me I didn't realize had tightened. A moment later, he appeared in the living room, phone flashlight casting a pale circle of light across his face. His hair was damp, maybe he'd showered again, and his expression unreadable. "Well," he said quietly, "guess it's just you and me now." The words, simple as they were, sent my pulse stumbling. I tried for nonchalance. "You got a candle or something?" He set his phone on the table, light aimed upward so it cast shadows across the walls. "Only one? You hoard the practical stuff." "Not me." "Typical." I sighed, but when he disappeared into the kitchen and returned with a candle, setting it between us, the soft glow shifted everything. The flame flickered, painting his features in gold. His eyes caught the light like dark glass, watching me too closely. I looked away first. Storm shouldn't last long. He leaned back against the couch, stretching out like he had no intention of leaving. "Scared?" The question hit a nerve. "Of what?" "A little rain?" He smirked, but there was something softer behind it. "You always try to sound so tough." "I am tough." Sure." His gaze lingered, uncomfortably direct. "But you still jumped the last time lightning struck." Heat rushed to my face. "That was one time." He chuckled, low, the sound curling through the quiet like smoke. The candlelight made him look almost unreal, every line of his face sharp and delicate all at once. I hated how much I wanted to reach out. Minutes passed in silence, broken only by the storm. I tried to focus on my laptop, but without Wi-Fi it was pointless. My thoughts drifted instead back to our fight. The venom in my words, the way his face had cracked before he hit it. I couldn't stand it anymore. "About the other night," I said suddenly, the words rough. His head tilted, but he didn't interrupt. I shouldn't have said what I did. I stared at the candle, not him. "You're not a game." I was angry and— "Stop." His voice was quiet but firm. My eyes lifted. His expression was unreadable, but his gaze pinned me in place. "You don't have to explain," he said. "I get it. You don't want me too close. You don't want me messing with you." Message received. The knot in my chest tightened. "That's not—" A loud crack of thunder cut me off. The candle flickered wildly, plunging us into momentary darkness before steadying again. Without thinking, I flinched, and in that second his hand found mine. Warm, firm, steady. I froze. My heart hammered against my ribs. "See?" he murmured, lips twitching at the corner. Still scared. I wanted to pull away. I should have pulled away. But his grip tightened. Not enough to trap, just enough to anchor. And for some reason I couldn't let go. We sat like that for what felt like forever. The storm raging outside. The silence between us louder than thunder. His thumb brushed over my knuckles once, absent-minded, and my chest ached. Finally I whispered, "Why do you do this?" "Do what?" "Get under my skin. Push until I break." He leaned closer, shadows shifting across his face. His voice dropped low. "Because I can't stop." My breath hitched. "I've tried," he continued. Softer now, raw in a way I'd never heard before. "But every time I tell myself to back off, I see you. And it's like, I forget how." The words cracked me open. I swallowed, throat dry. "Dylan," but he didn't let me finish. He leaned back, releasing my hand like it burned him. His mask slipped back into place. "Forget it," he muttered. "Storm's messing with my head." The loss of his touch felt colder than the blackout. I wanted to reach for him again, to say something, anything, but my tongue was heavy. So instead I just sat there in silence, listening to the storm, the flicker of the candle between us, the echo of words that weren't supposed to be spoken. And deep down I knew something had shifted. The storm would pass. The lights would come back. But nothing between us would ever be the same again. The storm had ended by morning, but something heavier lingered inside the apartment. The power flickered back to life sometime before dawn, but the memory of Dylan's hand on mine stayed lit in my chest like an ember I couldn't smother. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes I heard his voice again, raw and unguarded. "Because I can't stop." And the way he let go, like it had cost him something, haunted me even more. By the time I dragged myself out of my room, Dylan was already in the kitchen. He stood by the counter pouring cereal into a bowl. His hair messy, his t-shirt clinging in all the right places. Not my shirt for once. But that didn't make it easier to breathe. He glanced up and for the first time in days there was no smirk waiting. Just a guarded look, cautious, almost careful. "Morning," he said quietly. "Morning," I replied, voice rough. The silence stretched. It wasn't like before, not sharp with anger, but heavy with the weight of everything unspoken. I poured myself coffee, forcing my hands steady, and sat across from him at the table. He ate slowly, eyes flicking to me now and then like he wanted to say something. Finally he set his spoon down and leaned back. "About last night," his voice trailed off. His gaze fixed on the table. My chest tightened. "You don't have to explain." He shook his head. "Yeah, I do." His hands curled into loose fists. "I shouldn't have said it. Not like that. You probably think I don't know, crazy. Or that I was just—" "I don't think you're crazy." I cut in too quickly. His eyes lifted, sharp and searching. "Then what do you think?" The question was a trap. I felt it in my bones. But his gaze held me, and for once I didn't want to run. "I think," I said slowly, "you meant it." The silence after was deafening. His lips parted like he wanted to deny it. But he didn't. Instead he laughed softly, bitterly, running a hand through his hair. "You always do this," he said. "You see through me, then pretend you don't. Like you'd rather bury it than admit we're both standing in the same fire." My heart slammed against my ribs. "That's not true, isn't it?" He leaned forward, eyes locked on mine, voice low and raw. "Because I feel it, every time you look at me. Every time you pull away. Like you're afraid if you stay too close, you'll burn." His words unraveled me. I gripped my mug too tightly, heat searing my palms. "Dylan," he didn't stop. "I'm not good at hiding what I feel. Maybe I don't even want to. But you," his throat worked, "you build walls so high I don't know if I'll ever get over them. And still, I keep trying." The vulnerability in his voice cut deeper than anger ever could. I wanted to reach across the table, close the space between us. But fear held me frozen. "You don't understand," I whispered. "Then explain it to me," he said, desperate now. "Explain why you look at me like I'm the last thing you want and the only thing you need all at once. Explain why you can't stand seeing me with someone else. Explain why you let me get this close, then act like I'm the problem." I shook my head, words tangled in my throat. "Because it's easier that way." "Easier for who?" His voice broke. I couldn't answer. The silence between us stretched again, heavier than ever. He pushed back from the table suddenly, standing too fast. "Forget it," he muttered. I shouldn't have said anything. Panic shot through me. Before I could think, I stood too, blurting, "Don't walk away." He froze, back to me, shoulders tense. My voice faltered, but I forced the words out. "I don't hate you. Not even close." Slowly he turned, eyes wide, vulnerable in a way I'd never seen. "Then what is it?" The words hovered on my lips. The truth pressed against my ribs, begging to be freed. I wanted to say it. "I want you. I've wanted you since the moment you walked into this apartment." But the fear was stronger. "I can't," I whispered. Something flickered in his expression, pain, then resignation. He gave a small nod, stepping back. "Right. You can't." The distance between us felt like miles. But before I could take it back, before I could move, he crossed the room in 3 long strides. His hand came up, cupping my jaw, not rough but firm enough to steal my breath. His forehead nearly touched mine, his eyes burning into me. "You think I don't see it?" he murmured, voice trembling. "You think I don't feel how your pulse jumps when I touch you? How you hold your breath every time I get too close? You're not the only one drowning in this." I couldn't breathe. His touch seared through me, grounding and unraveling all at once. Then, just as suddenly, he let go. Stepping back, putting the wall between us again, his chest rose and fell sharply, like he'd just run miles. "I shouldn't." His voice cracked. "If I stay here another second, I'll do something I can't take back." He turned away, heading for his room. And I just stood there, shaking, heart tearing itself apart. Because I wanted him to. The door closed behind him, leaving me alone with my own silence. My knees gave out, and I sank into the chair, burying my face in my hands. The truth I had been hiding screamed inside me louder than the storm ever had. I wanted him, and sooner or later I wouldn't be able to pretend otherwise. For the rest of the day, Dylan barely left his room. I heard the creak of his floorboards once or twice, the muted sound of his music leaking through the wall. But he didn't come out, and I didn't knock. I told myself to focus on my work, to bury myself in notes and deadlines, but my eyes kept drifting toward his closed door. Every word he'd said circled my head on repeat. You're not the only one drowning in this. By nightfall, I couldn't take it anymore. I paced the living room, heart pounding like I'd run a marathon. My body ached with the weight of everything unspoken. If I didn't do something, if I didn't say something, this silence was going to kill me faster than any storm. I was about to knock on his door when it opened on its own. Dylan stepped out, hair a mess, wearing of course my shirt again. The same gray shirt that had started all of this. My pulse jumped. You've got to be kidding me. He leaned against the doorframe, lips tugging into a crooked smile, but his eyes were dark, unreadable. What? You weren't using it. I clenched my fists. Give it back. His smile widened, teasing, but there was tension underneath. Make me. Something inside me snapped. I crossed the room in 3 strides, heat burning up my neck. I mean it, Dylan. Take it off. His gaze flickered, and for the first time I saw him hesitate. But then he tilted his head, daring me. You really want it back that badly? Yes. My voice cracked. The silence that followed was electric. Fine, he whispered. And then slowly, deliberately, he reached for the hem of the shirt. My breath caught as he tugged it upward, inch by inch. The fabric lifted over his stomach, revealing toned skin, the faint trail of hair leading lower. The candlelight from the table flickered across his body, every line of him carved sharp and perfect. Dylan. My voice broke, half warning, half plea. He pulled it higher, over his chest, bearing the curve of muscle, the dip of his collarbone. His eyes never left mine, dark and steady, watching every twitch of my expression. By the time the shirt was halfway over his head, my restraint shattered. I grabbed his wrist, stopping him. Enough. He froze, shirt bunched in his hands, chest bare, breath shallow. Why? His voice was soft, trembling. You said you wanted it back. My throat tightened. The truth clawed to get out. I don't care about the shirt. The words hit like thunder. His eyes widened. And for the first time, Dylan looked unsteady. Then what do you care about? He whispered. I couldn't hold it in anymore. My hands trembled as I let go of his wrist and pressed my palm against his chest, over his racing heartbeat. His skin burned under my touch. You? I said, voice breaking. I care about you, and it terrifies me. For a moment the world stopped. His breath hitched, his body going still beneath my hand. Then slowly, his fingers came up, covering mine, pressing it tighter against his chest. You have no idea, he whispered, how long I've been waiting to hear that. The shirt slipped from his grip, pooling forgotten on the floor. His hand slid up to my jaw, tilting my face toward his. His forehead rested against mine, his breath warm, shaky. I tried to hold back, he murmured, voice raw. But you make it impossible. I closed my eyes, trembling, caught between fear and want. Then don't hold back. The moment the words left my lips, his mouth was on mine. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't careful. It was everything we'd been holding back crashing all at once. Heat, desperation, the taste of him filling me until I couldn't breathe. His hands fisted in my shirt, dragging me closer, while mine clung to him like I'd drown if I let go. Every wall I'd built, every denial, shattered under the weight of him. When we finally broke apart, gasping, his forehead still pressed to mine, he whispered, "Tell me you don't regret this." I shook my head, words spilling out without hesitation. I couldn't regret you, if I tried. His eyes closed, relief flooding his face. He pulled me into his arms, holding me so tight I thought I might break. Or maybe finally come together. For the first time since we'd become roommates, the space between us wasn't filled with tension or silence. It was filled with something terrifying, something overwhelming, something that felt dangerously close to love. And as his heartbeat thundered against my ear, I realized the truth I'd been running from all along. I didn't just want Dylan. I needed him,